Veraxa Prime was not a planet. It was a warning, covered in razor-sharp cliffs, violent storms, and poisonous winds. Veraxa Prime was known across the galaxy as a death world, one of the most dangerous places ever discovered. Even machines refused to function properly there. The air was thick with ash, the ground shook often, and the skies roared like angry beasts. No outsider had ever lasted more than a day on its surface. Commander Thalira, a proud Veraxan warrior, had spent her entire life on this cruel world. Her skin was thick and scaled, her blood ran hot, and her eyes could see through the dark fog that covered most of the planet. She believed no other species was strong enough to survive there. Yet, she had seen soldiers from across the stars cry for help and beg to leave within hours. Soft-shelled aliens, she often said. They come here thinking they are ready. They are not. One day, a new name appeared on her mission schedule. A human, volunteer, Captain Elias Ward from Earth. When Thalira heard it, she laughed. Of trees, rivers, calm skies, peaceful place. Weak by Veraxan standards. She expected him to land, breathe the ash-filled air once, and ask to leave. But when Ward arrived, things did not go as expected. He stepped down from the ship slowly. Looking around with calm eyes, he was not in a full-body suit like most others, just light armor, a simple pack, and a small breathing mask. He walked steadily into the dusty wind, as if he had done it 100 times. Thalira watched from the command tower. "Where's his escort?" she asked. "There is none," her officer replied. Thalira stared at the screen in silence. She zoomed in on his face. His expression was calm, not proud or scared, just ... present, focused. "Strange," she muttered. He should be exhausted, in pain. But Elias Ward was not shaking. He was not coughing from the air. He looked like he belonged. The next day, he reached Cliffside Ridge, one of the most dangerous parts of the zone. It was full of jagged rocks, sudden winds, and hidden predators. Veraxan soldiers trained for years to pass through it. Thalira sent a scout drone to monitor him. She expected him to avoid the area. But Ward climbed the ridge without stopping. His hands bled, but he didn't slow down. When a two-headed sand beast attacked, he ducked, rolled, and stabbed it between the jaws. He didn't roar, he didn't run. He just moved on, leaving the creature behind. When Thalira saw this, something inside her shifted. This human, he wasn't like the others. He didn't act like a warrior trying to prove something. He didn't complain. He didn't ask for help. He simply faced the world in front of him and kept walking. By the end of day 2, Elias Ward reached Outpost Redstone, one of the oldest Veraxan ruins, untouched by outsiders. Thalira stood waiting. "For him at the gate, you survived the ash plains," she said, her voice hard. "You crossed the ridge, why are you here?" Ward looked up at her, sweat on his brow, but no fear in his eyes. "To learn," he said simply. "And to see if your planet is really as strong as they say." Thalira narrowed her eyes and smiled. "So far it hasn't broken me." For the first time in her life, Thalira felt curious. A little uneasy, because for the first time, someone had looked at Veraxa Prime and didn't flinch. The wind howled like a living beast as Elias Ward stepped deeper into the wildlands of Veraxa Prime. Snow did not fall. Here it slammed down in heavy chunks, mixed with ash and grit. The temperature dropped far below freezing, but the human kept moving forward, his steps steady. Commander Thalira watched him on the screen, arms crossed. He should have turned back by now. "He refuses to stop," said her second-in-command. A younger Veraxan named Kalor. No distress signal, no food request, no complaints. Thalira's eyes narrowed. She didn't understand this human. Others came to show off, to prove strength. They all failed. Ward said little. He just acted. That made him harder to predict. Harder to ignore. Ward had entered a dangerous area, known as the Frost Spine. Few Veraxans went there without full cold suits and heavy weapons. Not because of the cold alone, but because of what lived in. The ice dot, The slicer-dash beasts, they were fast, silent, and hunted in packs. Each had 2 curved horns and thick hides. Their claws could tear through stone. Their eyes could see body heat through blizzards. Thalira remembered her first battle against them. She had been injured. 2 of her teammates hadn't survived. Now this human was walking right into their territory with nothing but a blade, a small pack, and his mind as night fell. Ward found a flat area near a broken cliffside and began to build a fire. The wind screamed around him, but he built a stone circle and used a powdery plant he had collected earlier. It sparked when crushed Toshmos, known to burn hot. He lit the fire, then huddled beside it. Placing metal sheets against the wind, a slicer beast watched from the shadows. It crept closer, silent paws on the ice. 2 more followed behind it. Ward's hand slid slowly to his knife. He didn't look back, didn't run. The first beast pounced. Ward dropped and rolled, slashing upward in one move. The blade caught the beast's soft underbelly. It howled in pain. The second came from behind. Ward threw ash into its eyes, blinding it for a moment. He ducked and moved to the cliffside. The third beast blocked him, teeth bared. Ward studied the terrain quickly, then he ran out away, but between the beasts. They chased him. Furious and fast, he led them across the ice toward a narrow point-a-weak patch over a deep crevice. At the last second, Ward jumped to the side and drove his metal rod into the ground. The ice cracked, the slicer beasts fell in. With a loud, echoing roar, Thalira watched the whole thing through a drone's camera. She didn't speak for a long moment. Kalor broke the silence. That was skill. Thalira didn't answer. She leaned closer to the screen. Ward didn't celebrate. He didn't shout or pump his fists. He simply returned to his fire cleaned his knife and sat down, breathing slow. The cold air swirled around him. But he didn't shiver. He stayed awake for most of the night, watching the darkness, as if expecting something worse to come. The next day, he climbed a ridge covered in ice. The sky was gray and heavy, but through the fog, Ward spotted strange markings on a stone wall, ancient Varixan symbols. He touched the carvings gently, brushing off snow and dust. A ritual site, Thalira whispered, recognizing the location. Even we haven't visited that place in years. Ward sat down near the carvings and took notes, sketched the symbols in his book and added translations based on what little he'd learned from the language database. Then, he did something. That surprised Thalira. He left a small human coin near the stone. Not as payment, but as respect. It was old and worn, marked with a human star symbol. Kalora frowned. Why would he do that? Thalira looked thoughtful. Maybe he understands. Something most outsiders don't. That evening, Ward reached a safe zone and sent a short message to the base. Alive. Continuing. No support needed. Thalira stared at the message. No complaints. No demands. Just progress. She opened a direct channel. Captain Ward, she said, her voice echoing through his communicator. He tapped the earpiece. Commander Thalira, you faced beasts, freezing storms, and old ruins. Why are you still here? Ward looked out over the cold plains. Because your world speaks, he said simply. And I want to hear more. Thalira didn't reply. She cut the call. For a long moment, she stood in silence. Understood. 3 days later, he arrived at the edge of the storm spires. Thalira stood waiting, dressed in heavy Varaxan armor. Her tall figure cast a strong shadow against the rocks. The wind was already howling. Fieldsward approached, wearing light gear again, carrying only a walking stick and a scanner. His clothes were torn from earlier travels, but his steps were steady. His face was calm, even with the storm's first growl in the distance. You really came, Thalira said. You asked, Ward replied. She studied him for a moment. Most people would say this is madness. I've never trusted most people, he answered with a small smile, without another word. Thalira turned and walked into the spires. The path was steep and dangerous. Sharp rocks jutted out like knives. The wind howled louder the deeper they went. Static electricity lit up the sky, with flashing blue veins. Every few steps, their boots sparked against the stone. Ward kept up easily, following Thalira's careful steps. At one point, a small rock slide crashed down behind them. Ward didn't panic. He covered his head, stayed low, and moved quickly. Once it passed, Thalira glanced back, surprised again by his calm reaction. "Do you even feel fear?" she asked. "I feel it," he said. "I just don't let it stop me." That answer stayed with her longer than she expected. Hours passed. They reached a narrow ledge where the wind was strongest. Even Thalira had to brace herself. Most flyers avoided this place. The air currents were wild, and the magnetic field made compass systems useless. Then the storm truly began. A loud crack echoed across the sky. A bright pulse of blue light flashed in the clouds, then came down like a spear. It struck the mountainside above them. Rocks broke free. Dust filled the air. A massive stone rolled down toward them. Thalira jumped aside and shouted, "Ward, move!" But Ward didn't run. He used his stick like a lever, pushed it into the crack between two rocks, and redirected the stone's path just enough to make it roll past him. When the dust settled, he was still standing. "You didn't run," Thalira said, amazed. "If I had," he said, catching his breath, "we'd both be buried." She stared at him. He didn't act like a hero. He just did what W. as needed. Later, they reached a small cave in the side of the cliff. The wind didn't reach inside. They built a small fire and sat across from each other. Thalira watched him quietly. Then she asked something she hadn't asked any outsider before. "Why are you really here, Ward? This planet isn't a prize. It's not a game." Ward looked into the flames for a moment. Then he said, "Because I've heard stories about places like this. Worlds that crush the weak and test the strong. But the galaxy doesn't understand that humans come from a place like that too." "Earth is green and soft," Thalira said. "Yes," he nodded. "But it also has storms that rip cities apart, mountains that freeze, oceans that swallow. Our ancestors survived those things. They didn't run. They adapted." Thalira said nothing. His words sounded simple but powerful. He continued, "I came to Viraxa Prime not to prove I'm better. I came because I know what it's like to fight to survive. I want to learn how your people did it too." The fire crackled between them. For the first time, Thalira saw him not just as a visitor, but as an equal. The next morning, they climbed to the top of the storm spires. From there, they could see the whole valley below. Ash plains, ice hills, black forests. It was cruel, beautiful, endless. Thalira looked at Ward. "You've seen more of this world than most outsiders ever will, and you're still standing." Ward took a deep breath. "It's not about standing. It's about walking forward, even when everything tries to stop you." She nodded slowly. "Then maybe you were meant to come here." They stood in silence, with the wind at their backs. Two warriors from different worlds, one unshaken, the other no longer so sure. Metal, deep, large. He looked up. Could be ruins, or something still active. She crossed her arms. "You want to go digging in our ancient past?" Ward gave a small smile. "Only if you'll help me." They searched for hours. The wind was quiet here, but the dust made it hard to see. With each step, their boots sank slightly into the soft earth. Finally, Ward found a strange shape half buried in the ground. He brushed the ash aside and revealed a metal panel covered in old Viraxan writing. Thalira knelt beside it. Her hand moved across the surface slowly. "These symbols, ... They tell of a life engine," she whispered. "Something built before the Great Shaping. It was said to keep the land alive when the skies turned dark." Ward examined the edge of the panel. "There's a way in." Together, they cleared more dust and opened the hatch. A small staircase led downward into the earth. Thalira hesitated. "No one has entered this place for 1,000 years, she said. Ward looked down the stairs, then back at her. "Then it's time someone did." The tunnel was narrow and cold. Old lights flickered on the walls as they stepped deeper. Most were dead, but a few gave off a dim blue glow. They passed strange machines covered in vines and rust. Finally, They entered a wide underground chamber. It was shaped like a circle, with walls lined with old tech. In the center was a large objecta crystal core, covered in black cables, faintly pulsing with energy. "It's still alive," Ward said. Thalira stepped forward slowly. "This is the source of the storms. It's in the warmth of the planet long ago, before it was damaged." He knelt beside the control pad. "Some of this tech is similar to what I've seen in human ruins back on Earth." "You've studied ruins?" Thalira asked. Ward nodded. "I used to be an explorer before I joined the Defense Corps. I've seen forgotten cities, lost vaults, and storm-eaten machines." He tapped the pad gently. A light blinked. A soft hum filled the room. Suddenly, a voice spoke an old recording in broken Veraxan language. Double quotes, ... Emergency system. "Core status, unstable, shutdown delay complete. Manual reset required, ... Thalira's eyes widened. "This thing is still connected to the planet's core. If it fails, the tectonic system could break." Ward finished. "Earthquakes, storms, maybe worse." They both stood in silence. Ward looked around. "Can it be fixed?" Thalira stepped toward the panel. "It would take energy. A lot of it. And someone would have to enter the stabilizer ring during reset. That area is full of radiation." "I've seen worse," Ward said simply. She stared at him. "You'd risk your life for a machine that isn't even human?" Ward looked around. Thea gave a thumbs up. "Do it." She activated the core. Blue light exploded from the cables. The crystal glowed brightly. A loud hum filled the chamber. Ward fought to stay standing as energy surged through the ring. Seconds passed, then silence. The lights faded to a soft, steady glow. The system calmed. The core was stable. Ward stepped out, shaking slightly but smiling. "You did it," Thalira said. "We did it," corrected. They both looked around the chamber, now alive again after centuries. Back on the surface, the air felt different, lighter, the wind softer. Thalira stood beside Ward. Watching the sky, "You found something my people forgot," she said. "You saved something we left behind." Ward shrugged. "Sometimes it takes an outsider to see what others stopped looking for." She looked at him with new eyes, not as a stranger, but as a part of something bigger, and for the first time, she wondered if this human wasn't just strong. Maybe he belonged here. Days passed since the ancient core had been reactivated beneath the dust hollow. The planet felt calmer. Storms slowed, the ground stopped shaking, and for the first time in years, the sky over Veraxa Prime showed a soft glow of blue. But peace did not last. That night, Commander Thalira stood in the command tower, looking at a screen flashing red. "Explain this," she demanded. Her officer answered with worry in his voice. "I thought the core was stable now." "It is," the officer said. "But the energy from the restart has pushed pressure into the broken plates. If it continues, the quake will destroy half the capital region." The warning was clear. Veraxa Prime was still wounded. Thalira sent a private message to Elias Ward. He arrived at the tower within the hour, covered in dust from another trek. His eyes were tired but alert. She handed him a data tablet. "A quake is coming, bigger than anything in 50 years. He studied the readings. It will destroy your city." She nodded. "Evacuating would take too long. Systems can't move that many people in time." Ward looked at the pressure map. "What about redirecting it?" "There's a natural fault barrier here," pointed to a ridgeline in the southern zone. "If we break it early and guide the quake's energy into the empty zone, we can stop it from hitting the city." Thalira raised an eyebrow. "That's risky." "All good ideas are," he said simply. She stared at him. "You'd risk your life again for people who don't even trust your kind?" He gave a short laugh. "I didn't come here to be trusted. I came here to help." Was no time to pause. The plan was dangerous. Ward would travel to the southern fault canyons, set a series of explosive charges, and create a controlled collapse that would open a path for the earthquake's energy. Tat refused to let him go alone. I know the terrain better than anyone, she said. You'll need me. So they flew out together, the sky dark with heavy clouds. Their transport landed near the fault line just before the tremors began. The ground shook beneath their boots as they worked quickly, placing charges into cracks and gaps across the canyon floor. Ward wiped sweat from his forehead. How much time do we have? Not enough, the Lyra replied. You plant the last charge, I'll prepare the detonator. But just as Ward moved to the final point, the ground beneath him gave way. The human dropped into a narrow pit landing. He shouted back, though his voice was tight with pain. She climbed down without hesitation. He pulled him up with strong arms and checked his leg. It's not broken, she said. But you can't run on it. He grinned. Good thing I didn't plan on running. Thalira gave him a look. You humans are strange. I'm proud of it. Together they climbed back up. The ground was shaking harder now. Time was running out. Thalira activated the detonator. Nothing happened. She checked the panel. One of the charge lines is broken. I'll fix it, Ward said, trying to stand. You can't run, she said firmly. I can crawl. Before she could stop him, he was already moving. He dragged himself across the rocks, ignoring the pain, and reached the charge point. Thalira watched her heart tight. Not with fear, but with something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Ward reconnected the wire and called out now. Thalira pressed the detonator. The explosions echoed across the canyon. A wave of force pushed upward. Then silence. The ground rumbled one last time, then ... Nothing. The quake had been released early. Its energy rushed through the empty valley and disappeared into the deep plains. The city was safe. Hours later, they sat together beside the broken ridge. The sky above them was clearing. Ward leaned against a rock, his leg wrapped tightly. You know, he said, for a planet that hates visitors, your world is starting to feel like home. Thalira looked at him. You've done more for Viraxa Prime than most natives? He shrugged. Just doing what needed to be done. She looked away for a moment, then said softly, You risked everything, even when others told you to leave. Why? He met her eyes. That's what humans do. We don't give up. We don't run from storms. We walk through them. A quiet moment passed between them. And in that moment, Commander Thalira saw not just strength in Elias Ward, but something deeper, something rare. The soul that did not bend. The quake had passed. The capital city was safe, but the silence that followed felt heavier than before. Commander. Thalira and Captain Elias Ward returned to the main Viraxan command center. Ward's leg was still recovering, wrapped in a brace. He limped, but he walked without complaint. All around them, screens showed news reports. Outsider prevents destruction of the southern region. Human leads a dangerous mission to save Viraxa Prime. A death world meets a death worlder. Inside the High Council chamber, Viraxan generals stood waiting. Their leader, High Warden Kraylock, stepped forward. He was tall and cold, with armor heavier than stone and eyes that never blinked. You broke protocol, Kraylock said to Thalira. You activated a forbidden machine. You led a human into sacred ground. Then you caused a controlled quake without High Command approval. Thalira stood tall. We had no choice. The planet was about to tear itself apart. Kraylock looked at Ward and you. Outsider, you interfered with Viraxan systems, broke safety rules, and brought human methods into our soil. Ward stayed calm. I did what needed to be done. You endangered our people. I saved them. Kraylock's eyes narrowed. Your kind always acts like heroes, but we do not value reckless bravery. Thalira stepped forward. This wasn't recklessness. It was courage. He saw the danger and faced it when others turned away. The room fell silent. Another general spoke. Viraxa Prime has always stood alone. If we let outsiders act freely, what does that say about us? Ward looked around the chamber. His voice was calm but firm. Says you are strong enough too. Learn strong enough to change. I didn't come here to take over. I came because I respect your world. And yet you act without orders, Kraylock said. Ward's voice sharpened, because waiting for orders would have cost lives. I made a choice. A hard one. That's what leadership means. The room was tense. Many Varaxans shifted uncomfortably. No one dared speak. Then Kralok said coldly, "Leave this planet." By dawn. Thalira's hands clenched. "You can't. It is done," Kralok said. That evening, Ward sat outside the camp, watching the sky. The wind was soft, and for once, there were no storms, just the quiet hum of the planet breathing. Thalira walked up behind him. "You're really leaving?" she asked. He nodded slowly. "They gave me until morning." "You did everything right," she said. "You saved our city. It doesn't matter. I'm still not one of you. But you came here without fear. You didn't just survive. This world. You understood it. When everything was falling apart again, you didn't run. You fought for us." He gave a quiet smile. "I wasn't just fighting for you. I was fighting for this place. It's harsh, yes, but it's real. It's alive." She nodded. "I told myself no one could ever live here except us. I was wrong." Then her voice became steady, stronger. "You don't deserve exile. You deserve honor." Ward chuckled. "You don't have to defend me." "I knew this might happen." "I'm not defending you," she said. "I'm standing with you." The next morning, a transport ship landed at the edge of the camp. Ward stood beside it, ready to leave. But before he could board, a loud sound echoed across the landing site. A long, deep tone, the Varaxan battle horn. Thalira appeared. Fully armored, followed by a line of soldiers, she marched up to Kralok, who had arrived to watch the human depart. Thalira held up a small glowing object, the mark of the flame, a symbol of bravery and self-sacrifice. "I am invoking warriors, right?" she declared. "I offer this mark to Elias Ward." The generals gasped. The mark was sacred, only given to those who prove themselves through great trials. Kralok growled, "He is not one of us." Thalira faced him. "He stood where others fell, saved our people when our own leaders failed to act. He endured the storms, the beasts, the pain. He never yielded. That is not the Varaxan way. What is?" She walked to Ward and placed the mark in his hand. "You are not just a guest," she said. "You are Varaxan in spirit." The soldiers around them beat their fists to their chests in respect. Kralok turned and walked away without a word. Ward looked down at the mark in his hand. It glowed with soft red light, warm, steady. He turned to Thalira. "I don't know what to say." She gave a rare smile. "Then don't say anything. Just stay." And for the first time since arriving on Varaxa Prime, Elias Ward finally felt what he had been chasing all along. Not survival, but belonging. Weeks passed since Elias Ward was honored with the Mark of the Flame. He no longer walked as an outsider on Varaxa Prime. Soldiers saluted him. Civilians asked for his stories. Even the rough winds of the planet seemed to greet him, more gently now. But Ward didn't change who he was. He still hiked the ash trails alone, still trained each morning at sunrise, still kept a small notebook of everything he learned about the world. He was not here for fame. He was here because he felt connected to something greater, Commander. Thalira noticed the change not just in how others saw him, but how she saw him. He wasn't just a guest anymore. He was part of the world's story. One morning, Ward stood at the edge of the eastern ridge, staring out over the black forest. It stretched for miles, twisted trees, dark skies, and unknown dangers. Few dared to enter it. Even fewer returned. Thalira walked up behind him. "You want to go in there, don't you?" Ward glanced over his shoulder with a small smile, curious to see what's inside. "You're not satisfied until you've stepped into every danger this planet offers, are you?" "Maybe," he said. "Maybe I just want to understand it better. Every part of it." Thalira stepped beside him. "The Black Forest is older than our cities. Some say it holds the heart of the planet." Ward raised an eyebrow. "That a legend or a warning?" She looked into the trees. "Both." Without another word, they began walking side by side into the forest. Inside, the air was thick and heavy. The sky turned dark, even though it was morning. Strange sounds echoed around them, deep hums, shifting branches, quiet whispers of life. Ward scanned the ground carefully. Magnetic interference is stronger here. No comes. No maps. Thalira nodded. We walk by instinct now. They moved slowly, step by step. The forest was alive, but not in the way most forests were. The trees pulsed with soft energy. The roots moved slightly when touched. The ground itself seemed to shift behind them. Then, they saw an opening ahead, lit by soft red light. A clearing dot in the center was a large stone platform half covered in vines. On top of it lay a strange object of crystal, like the one they found underground, but brighter, pulsing like a heartbeat. Ward stepped forward. It's real, Thalira whispered. The heart of Viraxa. The crystal pulsed again. Suddenly, a voice spoke not with sound, but directly in their minds. It was not one voice, but many. Echoes of the past. Of Viraxan ancestors. Of guardians who had once walked this planet long before them. You have awakened the core. You have brought balance. The planet remembers. Ward took a breath. It's alive. Thalira stepped closer, and it's watching us. The voice continued, This world is not just soil and storm. It is memory. It is trial. And you Homan have. Past Ward looked at Thalira. She looked back, eyes wide with quiet awe. The crystal glowed brighter. A soft energy flowed from it and wrapped around Ward for a moment, then faded. He felt no pain, only warmth. Your world accepted me, he said quietly. Thalira touched the stone. Maybe because you accepted it first. They stood in silence. For a while, listening to the gentle hum. Then the voice faded. The forest fell quiet again. Later that night, back at the camp, Ward sat by a fire. Thalira sat beside him. He looked up at the stars. I used to think Earth was the only place that could shape people like me, that it was the only home strong enough to raise survivors. And now, Thalira asked. He looked at her. Now I know that strength comes from more than just where you're born. It comes from what you face, what you choose to stand against, and what you choose to protect. She nodded. This planet tests everyone, but it rewards those who don't. Give up. Hift, breaking slightly, revealing a line of stars shining through. Ward looked up at them. I've walked through storms. I've fought beasts. I've climbed cliffs and entered ruins. But the hardest thing I ever faced, ... He paused, then smiled. ... Was earning the respect of a warrior who never trusted anyone. Lara looked at him, then said, You didn't just earn it, you changed it. The fire crackled between them. Viraxa Prime had tested him with cold, with pain, with silence, and storms. But Elias Ward never gave in. Because humans didn't run from harsh worlds, they made them home.